Last week, it was the defense that took over at Chargers OTAs, but this week, it was Kellen Moore's offense that was sticking it to Brandon Staley's group.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers together now for 7 seasons, but this is our 5th season as a host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you guys, as always, for making this your first listen today, and to make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on YouTube and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got?
On today's show, we're going to start things off by getting you the latest from Chargers OTAs and also talk about the Chargers' brand new wide receiver they signed, Darrius Shepherd. And then we're going to wrap things up with your great questions like, is there going to be any Chargers that make the all-rookie team? That and a lot more on today's Fan Mail Friday podcast.
I have one very good one, and I don't think it's the one people think it's going to be. But I do want to talk about Chargers OTAs because we're getting little snippets at this point, right? But we did get a decent amount out of their last practice where, in the team drills, it was the offense, and specifically Easton Stick, that was lighting things up. Daniel Popper was out at practice, and this is what he said about Easton Stick, who had 6 touchdowns in the team period. He said Stick took 16 reps under center and threw 6 touchdown passes. Receiver Keelan Doss, who's been working with the first team with Palmer and Williams, out caught 2 of these passes. Running back Isaiah Spiller caught a swing route for a touchdown. Tight end Stone Smart got one, beating Jasir Taylor out of the slot. And rookie receiver Terrell Bynum, a USC product, made a diving catch for a touchdown. David, it is OTAs, right? And if we're going to give Easton Stick credit for this week, we have to remember last week, right, when defense was running the show and picking people off, and we don't know how many of those were Max Duggan and how many were Stick. But it is great to see because Chase Daniel's not in the building anymore. You let the veteran go because you believe that Easton Stick was able to be that guy that could back up Justin Herbert for a little bit cheaper and, take over a game if he has to and not totally shoot the team in the foot. And at least I think you take from this a step in the right direction without getting too carried away.
Absolutely, yeah. You got to have kind of a measured approach when you look at these things coming out of OTAs. But with Justin Herbert away from practice dealing with the personal matter, not injury related, the Chargers organization made sure to put that out, make that known. Easton Stick was
weird,
the guy.
Man. Hopefully everything's good, with Justin Herbert. That was a weird thing to see. Anytime you see that, you just hope, hey, all friends, family, everyone's okay. But we're not going to speculate on anything. It's just odd anytime, you don't see the starting quarterback out there for non-injury reasons, non-contract reasons, things like that.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely something always that you want to kind of pay attention to. But with Justin Herbert not at practice, that means that Easton Stick is the guy running the show for the offense. And the offense was firing on all cylinders. They had him at the 30-yard line, basically almost in a red zone situation, obviously just outside of the red zone. But being able to spread the ball around, to be able to connect with, a lot of different receivers, running backs, being able to get to the end zone, like that is a good step in the right direction for Easton Stick, which I feel like we've seen some flashes of brilliance from him. The athleticism, I think, has been one of the things, especially the running ability, that we've seen mostly from Easton Stick. So if we can continue to see some development as a passer from him, I think that would go a long ways to making you feel better about him being the Chargers' primary backup quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely, especially when you have a scare last year with Justin Herbert, right? It's not like Chase Daniel had to get any significant time, but it is important here because he had a chance at the job last year, right? Chargers said that him and Chase Daniel were going at it for the backup job last year, and it was Chase Daniel who was active on game days, right? Not Easton Stick. So I think the biggest thing here will be showing consistency during the preseason because he's had some fantastic preseason games, even dating back to when he was a rookie, right? It's just the consistency. It would usually be one good game, 2 bad games, or 2 good games,
Jekyll
one
and
bad
Hyde.
game. Totally. And it's just like that's the one thing you can't have from your backup quarterback, right? Like you just can't go out there and totally ruin the game plan. Like that's really all you need it to be. But I only said 5 touchdowns. The 6th touchdown, I should say, ended up going to Quentin Johnson. It was nice to see him making plays. He had a catch on social media where he was going up, making a nice one-handed grab. And also in this 6-on-6 or 7-on-7 period, he had 1 touchdown, and it was against Asante Samuel Jr. in man-to-man coverage. I think you love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, that was truly fantastic. I mean, and just from Daniel Poplar's article, he gave a little bit of detail. He said Johnson lined up on the outside. Asante Samuel Jr. was across from him in man coverage at the snap. Johnson faked an out route before cutting inside on the slant route, and he caught Asante Samuel completely fooled, and Stick hit Johnston in stride for a touchdown from about 8 yards out. So, like, to be able to have that short area quickness, to be able to get that separation, like, that's what it's all about in the NFL. And to have a man of that size with that ability, like, in that short area quickness ability, like, man, that's really, really exciting. And then to see that clip where he just went up there, palmed that football with one hand, made just an incredible leaping catch, like, those are exciting. And I know it's practice, and I know it's not against anybody covering him, but it doesn't matter. Those are the type of plays that get you excited about your first-round pick, about what he is capable of doing. When you see him on Sundays and he's going up there and he's hauling touchdown passes from Justin Herbert.
Well, I think the most exciting thing about it is because you didn't see him high pointing a lot of balls in college, right? And going up and getting one,
exactly
using that ridiculous length that he has, crazy long arms,
the catch radius,
crazy athletic ability. That gives you a glimpse of the radius, right? Like, and you want to see him doing that more. And it's nice to see him doing things. I mean, you don't always want guys going up one-handed, but you do want to see at that size for him to open up that part of his game a little bit. But the other part, getting the inside move. I mean, his releases were great for a college receiver. He was really, really good in that aspect. And he's big enough and strong enough to not get jammed up at the line too often. So I think that is something that's huge. And even though he might not be the traditional, Mike Williams fade threat in the red zone, he definitely, if you get him the ball in his hands inside the 5-yard line, I think you feel pretty good about his chances of getting into the end zone. And how many plays have we seen Chargers thrown into the flat, Chargers going short in the red zone and having that come up short?
Too much.
And time again. So I think another, props goes to, Kellen Moore's offense, who even, Max Duggan had 5 touchdowns in this practice. So they were obviously keeping things definitely new and unique and different from what the Chargers defense has seen in years past going up against Joe Lombardi. Like to see that because Popper said that a lot of Max Duggan's touchdowns came from blown coverages. So bad on the defensive side, get that cleared up, figure it out, obviously. But Kellen Moore doing things differently, and I think the Chargers defense is still trying to catch up a little bit. But we also have a kicker battle, David, a kicker battle with a kicker named Dicker in it, so we have to get to that, of course. And David, in the first day, these two were going at it. They each kicked 5 field goals, and they each made 5 field goals.
Yep, 27 yards out, 32 yards out, 43 yards out, 48 yards out, and the best of all, 52 yards out. We know that the Chargers kickers have had some trouble past 50 yards, so the more times you hear about them hitting those 50-plus yard field goals, the better it makes you feel about their ability to do it when the game is on the line. And this is what it's all about. I mean, the Chargers right now are in a very good position to where they have a veteran kicker who they kind of know what he brings to the table, and they have an up-and-coming young kicker who seems to have a very strong leg and just came off of one of the best rookie kicker seasons
ever
in the NFL.
He was the NFL's
NFL
most
history.
accurate kicker last year.
There you go. I mean, it just he came off of a great year, and both of these guys, they deserve a legitimate chance to win this job. So this is going to be one of those kind of the under the radar type of training camp battles that you're going to have to keep an eye on. Another kicker competition.
Maybe you squares have it under the radar. It's going to be firmly on my radar during camp. Gotta love a kicker battle. But thank you to Eric Smith for giving us the distances on those because obviously we were not there. So it's nice to see what those numbers were and where they're hitting it from. Dustin Hopkins, it's hard because the last time we saw him, it was him injured, kicking a game-winning field goal for the Chargers against the Broncos in a game where they had to have it, and it was just an absolute
on basically one
slugfest.
leg. Yeah.
And then Cameron Dicker came in and was just about perfect. 21 of 22, hit all of his PATs, hit from 50+. Hopkins was 9 of 10. How do you lose your job hitting 90% of your field goals? Like, Cameron Dicker was the most accurate kicker in the NFL of anyone who kicked more than 3 times in 3 field goal attempts. He was just absolutely awesome.
He was nails.
He's a little bit cheaper, but man, it's so hard. You can't root against Dustin Hopkins. Like, I'm truly rooting for both of these dudes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that whatever dude doesn't win out on it is going to be firmly on the radar of
they're going to get
snatched
snatched up immediately. There's no doubt about it.
So both of them perfect through, the first day of OTAs where they're going competitively. That's going to be very exciting, and it seems like the nerves haven't gotten to either of those guys yet. But we do have more to get to because it is Fan Mail Friday, and we're going to talk about a new signing, Darrius Shepherd, Why are they signing a receiver and return man at this point in the offseason? We're going to get in that coming up right after this. But first, I need to tell you guys that you guys should be making a break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs. Make a fast break over there because right now you can get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 with FanDuel. That means you are winning even if you're losing. If you're losing, you can get $2,500. Now, they actually upped it, $2,500 if you lose your bet. It was $1,000. Now it's $2,500 if you lose your bet. And right now, the finals are on. You have the Stanley Cup playoffs about to start as well. The finals about to start. But you guys should be going with all of your action to FanDuel because they have the best promotions going on. They always have so many fun ways to bet. And you might think, what are fun ways to bet? Go to FanDuel because they have so many different options and promotions going on, and you're getting it on a safe and secure app. And the best part is you get paid instantly. So make sure you guys check out FanDuel and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon so you can get that no sweat first bet up to $2,500, $2,500 if you lose. And that's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, David, it is Fan Mail Friday, and you guys really came through again with really, really good questions. So much so that we're not even going to be able to get into all of them today. We're going to have to use some next week as well because you guys really came through and we had some OTA stuff to get into today. But the everydayers know we'll be back with you guys on Monday. It is going to be the start of 3 shows a week. We're going to try to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But Monday's show, we're going to be talking about the disaster that lays ahead of the Chargers in 2024 if things don't go well this year. Is this the last real year they have a chance to get a Super Bowl? We're going to talk about that on Monday. But I do want to start with this question from Eddie Owensby because the Chargers made a signing this week. They ended up bringing in Darrius Shepherd, who was most recently in the XFL. And David, this is an interesting signing. We know the Chargers cut Damon Lloyd. We haven't got to talk about that yet, a reserve linebacker opening up a spot. Now we see who they're filling it with Darrius Shepherd.
Yeah, Darrius Shepherd is a guy who has some kind of familiarity with a current Chargers quarterback, and that is the current backup quarterback, Easton Stick. He played with Easton Stick at North Dakota State, where he won 3 FCS national championships together. Most recently, he has bounced around a couple different practice squads, including the Green Bay Packers, but most recently, he was in the XFL, and he won the XFL Special Teams Player of the Year award. And it was mostly based off of the kick return yards. He had 907 kick return yards and a 24.5 average. Also did some damage on offense, too. He had 48 passes, 519 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So, I mean, this is a guy, I think primarily, Dan, you probably look at this guy as competition for Darius Davis as a punt kick returner type of guy. I think that's probably what the Chargers were thinking when they made this move to bring him in.
That was my first thought, too. And I think my only retort to that would just be like, I don't know if you can have competition if there's no way you're getting cut. And there's just no way that Darius Davis is getting cut, right? So to me, this is a practice squad stash. This is someone you're bringing on for that role if something were to happen to Darius Davis. This is someone who could come in and fill in.
Insurance policy.
I mean, he, as recently as last year in the XFL, was a very good kick returner, and that's not the strongest part of Darius Davis's game, right? So could you say, hey, he has a chance to win the starting kickoff return role? Probably not, because the Chargers go 6 deep already at wide receiver. So where's the room for him, right? Like, unless Jalen Guyton's getting cut and you're going to keep a wide receiver specifically for punt returns and a wide receiver specifically for kick returns, doesn't seem likely. It seems to me this is a DeAndre Carter, Darius Davis practice squad stash in case something happens, especially for a dude who's 5'8", 170 pounds soaking wet.
Of course.
This is, I think, a good move for those reasons. It's not the, free agent signing that we wanted to see, but I think this is, at least someone to beat competition, at least during training camp, even if the competition can't end and Darius Davis getting cut because you used a 4th-round pick on him. But he averaged 24.5 yards last year in the XFL, but in 20 NFL kick returns, he has 18.7 yards average, which is not great, and he did that for the Packers. Also, kick returns are a little bit devalued right now, especially with the new rule. Yeah. The other part of it is he did not return punts in the XFL. So that part it's not an equal swap there, right? DeAndre Carter, Darius Davis, both good punt returners.
Yeah.
And when he did do punt returns in the NFL, he had 3 punt returns for a total of -3 yards. So he averaged -1 yards per punt return at the NFL level. Even though I'm saying that, though, I like it. I like, just building a deeper wide receiver room and a deeper wide receiver stash on the practice squad because we know those guys got up and played meaningful snaps last year for the Chargers. So let's get to the next question here from Marcus Boyd, who asked, what would be more exciting in week one? This I had a tough one with. A pick six from J.C. Jackson, assuming that he's playing in week one, or a strip, sack, fumble return touchdown for Joey Bosa. David, which one did you go with?
Ah, man.
You can make a case for either. You can make a case for either.
You totally could. But honestly, I think because of the severity of the J.C. Jackson injury and because we don't know where he's at in his recovery time. And Joey, by all accounts, seems to be very healthy. So,
right.
I kind of expect him to come back and have a very, very good year. I think the Chargers, with the way their secondary is right now, I think they're in a pretty good spot. If they're able to get a healthy J.C. Jackson back, a guy that's a pickoff machine, man, that could really spell some major problems for offenses all over the NFL. But, yeah, I think that's what I would have to go with. I think that would be an absolutely massive development for the Chargers if J.C. Jackson's able to come back, get that pick six, and remind everybody why he is Mr. INT.
Yeah, I mean, it would be his first interception as a Charger, right? Like,
Exactly.
That would be great to see. I would have probably gone with that. I'll play devil's advocate and say Joey Bosa because I think part of this here that I like the most is a fumble return for a touchdown, right?
Yeah,
it's
that would
obviously
be
that
amazing,
trifecta.
too.
You get the sack, you get the strip, you get the touchdown. That's obviously great. But I'd love to just see Joey Bosa running with the ball in his hands, too, maybe bowling over, Patrick Mahomes on his way into the end zone. So I think that's why, if I'm playing devil's advocate, I would go with that. Give me a big
reminds me
man
of the
with
guy
the ball
with
in
a
his
nail
hand.
in his head from Happy Gilmore, just
Right.
running from the golf. Yeah, that would be Joey Bosa right there.
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to see Joey Bosa throw a stiff arm in there, right? Everyone's seen a DB take one back to the house, but
Yeah,
I'd love to
of
see a
course.
big man with the ball in his hands, especially a freak
Yes.
like Joey Bosa, and see him really open it up. But we do have more fan mail questions to get into. That was a great question, Marcus. John Hills is with us today, and he's asking, with the rumors circulating around signing a veteran to provide edge rusher depth, would Leonard Floyd or Jadeveon Clowney have a bigger impact? Which would have a more affordable contract, and which fits better into the Staley system? So as far as the price tag goes, I would say that it's hard to say what either one are right now. I would say Leonard Floyd's probably more expensive. I would have to believe he's been more productive, 9+ sacks in 3 straight seasons. But as far as who fits better, David, I mean, we've actually seen one of them playing Brandon Staley's defense.
Yeah, of course. And that's Leonard Floyd. I mean, Leonard Floyd was with the Rams when Brandon Staley was the defensive coordinator, and that's back when the Rams had the #1 defense in the NFL. So
when he had his best season, it's his only double-digit sack season. He had 10.5 sacks. He's never had more than 10 in any other year.
There you go. Just goes along with the trend of defensive players playing their best seasons in their career for Brandon Staley. So that is a no-brainer. Leonard Floyd would fit perfectly. He already understands the terminology. He can step in right away and be productive and not have to worry about the learning curve. I mean, that's a no-brainer. And I think also I like the production and the consistent production out of Leonard Floyd the last few years. I think you add that guy to this pass rush group. I mean, I think you don't have any more questions immediately after that.
It'd be a chef's kiss through the offseason, I think. I mean, besides John Johnson, maybe you add both of those dudes, a couple of former Staley defenders. I mean, I'd have a hard time having any gripe with what the Chargers have done. Feels like those would be the cherry on top. And even though they signed Darrius Shepherd, they did leave one roster spot open. So they opened one up to bring him in. They're keeping one open. For what that reason is, we don't know yet. So it's going to be interesting to see if they will still dip back into it. I mean, it's almost at a month past when we saw them sign guys like Kyle Van Noy and Morgan Fox last year.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of talent still left out there, especially at the edge rusher position. I'd feel better if there was a little bit of depth, with more experience and some production behind Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. I like Thule. Chris Rump through 2 years. We haven't seen it from him yet. I'd like some veteran, competition backup at that spot for sure. And Jadeveon Clowney, I think, is kind of like a kryptonite to NFL front offices right now, just because the last time we saw him, he was dragging his teammates and his coaches under the bus, which is just never going to help.
Not a good look.
Get it on the next team. So
No.
hope never hope a man can't find work. Hopefully Jadeveon Clowney finds work. I just don't think it would be with the Chargers. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm all for Leonard Floyd. Hey, if you're talking about if he has to take a cheap deal, I can't believe he's still available. Can't think of a better place you could do it. I mean, maybe someone has a starting spot available, right, and he's waiting for training camp to see if a starting spot somewhere opens up because he would not have that with the Chargers. Still
but if
surprising
not,
to see him out there.
There's no other better place for him to be, Daniel.
No,
I mean, this
following
is
the footsteps of Morgan Fox, who literally just recouped a lot of his value that he didn't have when he was a free agent last year. The proof is in the pudding there. But we do have more questions to get into, including fan favorite Atir showing up with his voicemail this week asking about the most exciting training camp battle. So we'll talk about that and if any of these rookies can make the all-rookie team coming up right after this. Atir, I love you. We have you on today's show. We're very excited to get you on. Thank you to everyone for checking out today's show, and thank you to everyone who hit us up, asked us your questions on Twitter at LockedOnLAC, or hit up the voicemail line at 323-524-7924. But Atir has a very serious training camp question that we have to get into. We cannot wait any longer. Let's see what he has.
Dan, David, this is Atir. I have a question. Most exciting training camp battle, linebacker Henley and Murray or wide receiver 3 Palmer and Johnson? I'm taking the wide receiver 3. Let me hear you. Love you.
I love you. David, who are you going with?
Yeah, honestly, I think the sexy answer is to go with the wide receivers, but I think as far as impact on this team, I think really it's Deion Henley and Kenneth Murray Jr. I think they have really given Kenneth Murray the benefit of the doubt from being a first-round pick the last couple of years, and I feel like he's kind of had a number one role, a starting role just kind of sewn up. And I think now that you introduce some legitimate, real competition, some youth, a guy that really had some great production in college and was all over the football field and is a very sure tackler, a guy that definitely is needed in the Chargers defense after we've seen how bad the Chargers run defense has been the last few years. I will be keeping a very close eye on that battle, and I want to see who wins it. I think that's going to be a very, very exciting one for me.
I think so too. I was going to go that way. I still will go that way. I mean, I think the thing is like if Quentin Johnson wins, he turns into wide receiver 3, right? Yeah. Like, if Deion Henley wins, like, there's nobody he's splitting targets with, right? Like, he's going to be out there alongside Eric Kendricks. He's going to be the guy that's going to get a ton of snaps and probably have more snaps than the wide receiver 3 will, right? So, I think it's Henley for those reasons. I think he has, a good chance if they're willing to open the conversation of being real about how well Kenneth Murray is playing. Deion Henley has more of a chance of that. Obviously, I hope he wasn't the one on the, all the defensive breakdowns that they saw at practice the other day, but we will see. I think he has a ton of raw talent. I think he's a very sure tackler. I think there's a lot of things he could bring to the Chargers defense that they really lack right now. And I think that if you're adding him to the Chargers defense and he can be, an upgrade over what you have in Kenneth Murray, I mean, that's been such a problem spot for the Chargers. And I think this as well, David. Kenneth Murray has been more of a problem spot than Josh Palmer has been, right? So it's if we're talking about which one of those guys you need to see replaced more, I think based on play, not knowing what they're going to do this year, I think that you would rather replace Kenneth Murray. So that's where I would want to go. And that goes perfectly with our next question from Colby Talbert, another everydayer always coming through with the great questions. And he is asking, these rookies have an opportunity to make an impact. Do you see the Chargers making an all-rookie team? And who has a better season, Quentin Johnson or this guy, Deion Henley, that everyone wants to talk about? David, what do you got here?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Quentin Johnston here. I think Quentin Johnston is coming into a great situation with the best quarterback that he's ever played with, period, at any level. A guy that can hit him in stride, a guy that can throw accurately on the run. I mean, there's really no throw that Justin Herbert can't make. And so I feel like he's going to have his opportunities just with, considering the other Chargers wide receivers. I love Keenan and I love Mike to death. I really do. But there's a very high probability that those guys are going to miss some time. And so I feel like Quentin Johnston's going to have those opportunities to go out there and shine and show his athletic ability. And I think that is going to get him an all-rookie spot.
Oh, you think he's going to go all-rookie? Oh,
yeah, at least he's going to – I think he's going to have the better chance to get to the all-rookie.
You think he's going to have a better season than Deion Henley, right? Because those are two questions. Because I think he'll have a better season if I had to pick right now than Deion Henley, just because – it's hard for me to imagine the Chargers not using Quentin Johnson this year. It's almost impossible for me to imagine that he's not going to just have some role. Like if Deion Henley doesn't win the starting job at a camp, maybe he gets in on some sub-package roles, but like
He'll be on special teams mostly.
He'll be mostly on special teams. So,
Yeah.
I think that, there's a good chance you see if Kenneth Murray and Eric Hendricks are healthy and those dudes win those jobs, or at least Kenneth Murray wins that job, that he'll be out there for 90% of the snaps or something along those lines, right? Or if there's 2 linebackers on the field, he's going to be out there. So, we have a chance to see very little of Deion Henley potentially. It's very hard to imagine that they have, a little chance to see Quentin Johnson, who is giant, and will definitely be on the field. I'm going to go off the board here. I think the best Chargers chance of making the all-rookie team, Darrius Davis. People, what are we thinking here? Are you telling me that Darrius Davis, the best returner coming out of the draft, doesn't have a great chance to win an all-rookie spot?
Kind of mad at myself. I didn't.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited because I gave it off to you, and I was like, oh no, I hope he doesn't pick my guy. I mean, he could win it. First of all, he has 2 different options. He could win it as a kick returner. He could win it as a punt returner. So he has 2 open slots. Great point. While Quentin Johnson's fighting for one of 2 spots, Deion Henley's really going for one of 2 spots. I think as far as who's more likely to make the all-rookie team, wide receiver is going to be really hard. He was Quentin Johnson, the 2nd wide receiver off the board. I believe that Deion Henley was the 3rd linebacker off the board. So both of them taking the top 3 of their position, so you'd think would have a great chance at an all-rookie team, outplaying the rest of those guys. Opportunity is so important, though. So I think opportunity is the only thing in the way. Darrius Davis, even after the Darrius Shepherd signing, 2 returners named Darius. Different spellings. Darius Swinton not here to have those dudes on his special teams. Imagine Darius Swinton, the special teams coordinator, coaching Darrius Davis and Darrius Shepherd, D3. But I think that he easily has the best chance to win the all-rookie team. I think it would be pretty – I think it's his to lose. I'll say that. He's gonna. I got to say
I agree with you.
Yeah, and they do have 5 freaking punt return touchdowns in college. He is a freak and also runs – a 4.3.
Legit 4.3.
Darrius Shepherd, 4.61. A little bit different there. A little bit more explosiveness on one side. But we do have a question from one of our real OG everydayers. We got Barnaby calling into today's show. Let's see what he has.
What up, fellas? It's Barnaby from the 805. I didn't get my last question on the show, but let's see if this one will make it. I saw a report that they did not pick up Kenneth Murray's 5th-year option on his rookie contract. So I immediately thought that we were just basically cutting K9 and we weren't going to see him in training camp. But everything I've heard is he will be there. So can you guys explain what is that 5th-year option if we don't pick it up? Do we still have him under contract? How does that work? It's a little confusing for me because I'm not really familiar with rookie NFL contracts. So I'd love to know. All right, fellas, keep up the hard work. Go Bolts.
Barnaby, you made it. There's the first good news, right? So the second thing is, I'm sure you're not the only person that's wondering this, right? It is a very confusing thing. The thing about the 5th-year option is you have to decide on it after the player's 3rd year, right? Yeah. So Jerry Tillery going into last year had his 5th-year option declined, and then that led to some resentment and obviously him eventually getting cut. So you decide to pick it up before that player's 4th season. So once you decide to decline it, you're playing that last season knowing you're not going to be under contract for, in this case, 2024. So this is the last year for Kenneth Murray on the Chargers. He's under contract this year, whereas Justin Herbert, whose 5th-year option was picked up, he's played 3 years, so now is still under contract through 2023 and 2024. The other thing about the 5th-year option is it changes. The money changes based on your performance over the first 3 years. I believe that Kenneth Murray would have been in the 3rd tier of a player who's either played 50% of the snaps in any of their 3 seasons so far, or in all of the 3 seasons, or played 75% of the snaps defensively in any of those 3 seasons at any point. I think he hits those thresholds, and snap counts and percentages can be a little bit difficult to find. But basically, the Chargers would have had to pay Kenneth Murray $12.7 million, right, in 2024, and they're $60 million over the cap. But that's something we'll be talking about on Monday when we get more into the Chargers cap hell going into next year.
And also, the 5th-year option is only for first-round picks, okay? Only for first-round picks. So that's
important to remember.
That's one thing to remember. And it is exactly how it sounds. It's an option. So it's up to the team to decide whether they want to exercise that 5th-year option or not. They decided not to with Kenneth Murray. So after this year, after his 4th year in the league, he will be an unrestricted free agent.
Correct. So, and the thing is that's hard is you have to find out after the 3rd season, right? That's like the Packers had to do it with Jordan Love before they even really saw him. So that part can be difficult. Donnie from Wisconsin, I'll squeeze you in here. Donnie from Wisconsin. What's your favorite college football team? I'm assuming San Diego State, but I could be wrong. Mine's Wisconsin Badgers. I'm San Diego State. David, are you San Diego State? Or
San Diego State, yes.
We both totally graduated from San Diego State. Don't do any research into that. It's totally true. So we like the Aztecs. I was always a USC guy growing up over UCLA. growing up, I was an Ohio State fan because James Laurinaitis played there. So I've bounced all over the place a little bit. But San Diego State, basketball, football, that's who I pull for now for sure as a San Diegan. But that is going to wrap things up for today's show. Thank you to everyone who hit us up on Twitter at LockedOnLAC and called in at 323-524-7924 to the Locked On Chargers voicemail line. But the good news is, guys, we'll be back with you on Monday talking about what happens in 2024 because the Chargers are going all in financially this year and may have set themselves up for one last Super Bowl chance this upcoming season. So we'll talk about that. But to make sure you never miss the show, guys, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel, and also follow the show and listen wherever you get your podcast from. You can also find every day on Twitter every show that we put out. So you can find me on Twitter at Dan Talk Sports and David Drogmeyer on Twitter at DroTalkSD. You can also find the show's page at Locked On LAC. Like everyone, hit us up for those voicemails. But that is going to do it for today's show. Monday, talking about the future, which can be a little bit scary, and we'll be here to talk about that with you guys. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.